Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the 938 podcast. It is great to have you joining us this morning. My name is Craig Stevenson, and I'm an Associate Mission Director here with the BBFI Mission Office in Springfield, Missouri. And we're excited to be coming at you every Tuesday morning, talking all things BBFI missions and Project 938, right here from the Mission Office and here on YouTube, and then also on Spotify if you're listening on Spotify. But today we have a really great show planned for you today, and excited to have Professor Craig Dunning with us today from Baptist Bible College, right across the street. Right, so right here, it's great to have you on here today. So
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah,
thanks for the invite.
I know we've talked about getting you on, and it's good to have you here, especially at the beginning of the school year, as you have students now on campus and everything. And so, let's do this. Let's start with you and your family. Give us just a little bit of background for our viewers. You know, some of them may know you, some of them may not. Tell us about yourself. Tell us about your wife, your kids, kind of your background. And then we'll just kind of go from there with a series of questions. Today, if you're watching, we're going to talk a lot about the missions program at BBC here in Springfield, and just excited to have Craig Dunning with us. So go for it. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and your family.
Well, my wife and I both grew up in non-Christian homes. She grew up in Odessa, Texas. I grew up in Dallas area. We, and particularly for my family, we weren't angry with God, at least that we were aware of. We just didn't have anything to do with God, so it was not something for us. And basically, happy family life, but not connected to God in any way. And then got in high school and started to have some internal issues about those things and what would be right and what would be wrong. And I'm very thankful for a fellow student who began to pursue me for the gospel, is the way I describe it. He began to invite me regularly. I would always say yes, but not this week, but next. Yeah. And for a full year, he chased me with the gospel. And then I began to attend church with him. And then finally, I heard the gospel in a way that I could understand. And I repented and became a Christian.
Very cool.
And my wife came to faith as a 13-year-old girl. By the invite of a neighbor, a best friend, invited her to begin attending the Temple Baptist Church in Odessa, Texas. And so that was an interesting thing. Odessa became a very important place in my life. All the big things in my life happened there. Yeah,
I love that, because we have ties to Odessa as well. Our first real ministry youth pastor position was in Odessa at University Heights Baptist Church. And so it's funny, just going back, how many people have actually gone through Odessa, Texas? Wow. It's really funny out in West Texas. But sorry to interrupt. But it's cool because we know some of the same people from back in Odessa. So that's really cool.
It's a great thing to see how God moves the pieces to the puzzle and puts them in place. Yeah. But Colleen came to faith as a 13-year-old, and then when she was in high school, she committed her life to cross-cultural ministry. She wanted to be a missionary, and she really cut her ministry teeth on working the buses as a high school student. Wow. She had knocked doors on Saturday and begged parents to let their kids come and go back on Sunday and pick them up. And she stayed in Odessa another year and then went off to Bible college in South Carolina. And really, when she ended up overseas, she had already had a lot more preparation than I had. I had no intention to be in cross-cultural ministry. It happened for me in that I went to grad school in Israel, and after a year on campus, I actually was able to move off campus. And I'm very cosmopolitan in the way I think. I love international people and context, but I didn't have any intention to stay. I had enough money to be there for 3 semesters. I'd interrupted my studies at Dallas Seminary. And anyway, one thing led to another. I moved in with a Russian immigrant family. I had just stumbled into a 2-month-old church plant, just a handful of people. And after some weeks with this Russian immigrant family, they had got born again en route to Israel. Wow. They asked me, they said, it was a very funny conversation. They said, "Can we ask you a favor?" And I'm very cautious-minded in certain cases.
Yeah,
and I
sure.
said, well, it depends on what you're asking.
Depends on the question. Yeah.
And they said, well, we got saved en route to Israel. We came with a lot of friends, and none of them are Christians. And we want someone that can sit and share the gospel and teach the Bible to them.
Yeah.
Would you do that? And honestly, it scared me significantly.
Yeah, sure.
Because suddenly now I was not supporting another ministry. I had a lot of experience in ministry at that point, and good education, but I hadn't really said, okay, it's on my shoulders now.
Yeah.
And I thought for a moment, and I said, well, what do you want me to do? And they said, you go in your room, lock the door, don't come out till God gave you what to say, exact quote.
Yeah.
And I thought about it for a minute, and I said, I think I can do this.
Yeah.
And I said, all right, let's do it. They said, we'll bring the people, we'll bring the food, we'll translate. You just go in, lock the door, don't come out till God gave you what to say.
Yeah.
And every week it was we'd do an hour lesson, hour Q&A after. It was the most amazing thing probably till now I've ever been involved in, how God prepared me in school early in the week, give me something I never thought of before, and it'd be the question that would be asked on Thursday night.
Man.
It was a fascinating opportunity.
That's awesome.
And here I was, a red, white, and blue American, sitting in front of just a room full of Russian immigrants who most of them, we actually attracted many of them, and we began to advertise in the newspaper, free Bibles, free Bible studies.
Wow.
And so we would gather just a variety of people, and the questions were never about the lesson, they were about something else, but God had always prepared us to give an answer, and it was the most amazing thing. But all that to say this, it led to, we'll say it this way, the government invited me to leave the country because some, let's say, opposing groups sent 2 young boys, 15 and 17, to our Bible study in Israel. Under 18s, or you can't evangelize under 18s. So they ask you the questions you want people to ask, and so you answer those questions. Who is Jesus? What's the gospel? Those kinds of questions. And that resulted in me being invited to leave the country. That's how I ended up in Odessa. I still didn't know Colleen at this point. I ended up on staff at Temple.
Okay. So you were on staff at Temple.
I swept the streets, got the buildings ready for church, and got to sit at the staff table. I'm so thankful for Jerry Thorpe's wisdom in that. He had a guy who literally, those that don't know, Odessa is in West Texas. It does not have drains in the streets. The water just runs to the low spot.
That's right.
On the corner of our property at 10th and Texas, we had property on all 4 corners.
Yeah.
The 7-Eleven behind our building would wash their gas pumps in the pavement on Saturday night, and all that oily water and gas water would run down to our corner. So I would get out at 6 or so in the morning and sweep that all out, moving from one corner to the next corner, from one building to the other, you didn't have to leap over this pool of oil water. So I did that, and we had, strange enough, trees that dropped berries on the sidewalk. So I got everything cleaned up. We got Sunday school classes arranged, and I got to teach plenty. It was a very staff-intensive church there, about 11 full-time staff pastors. So somebody was always gone. I always had opportunity to teach, but I think one of the things that was so helpful for me was Jerry Thorpe, and by the way, he was preaching when I understood the gospel and became a Christian. He was preaching revival in the Dallas area, that started my connections to him. But I ended up out there working with single adult ministry, but he would let me sit at the staff table, and I just learned so much sitting around this collection of wisdom. And the other thing that was important is the guy who just sweeps the streets, literally, he let me also express some thoughts and opinions at the table and be involved in the process, not just watch it. I watched tons, but if I had a thought about something, he also allowed that.
He invited that. That's good.
It helped me to increase in those kinds of processes, not just watching, but participating in it. So,
you know what's interesting? You talk about Jerry Thorpe. I mean, just being in Odessa, you know the impact that he's had on that community over the years. I mean, it's been a massive impact on that community and that whole region, let alone in missions and everything else. But now to see him, you know, he comes through Springfield, get to hear him preach and get to see him at different places around the country and to see how faithful he's been. But what's interesting to me is the number of people in our fellowship, in our movement, and even in other movements that he has impacted that are in ministry today, in part because of his ministry, or maybe even completely because of the impact that he's made on their lives.
Right.
And it's great to hear that from you. I hear that from people of all ages.
All ages.
There are youth pastors right now that are just coming out of Bible college that have been in conferences that he's preached at, and to see how he's done that across the age demographic.
Yeah. You've got guys retiring now
That's
who
right.
were youth directors when he was speaking at youth camps in California and Texas, our youth rallies, these national rallies, and
that's really cool.
So I was blessed in that sense. But what I didn't mention is my first trip to Israel was as a tourist, and I had joined his group.
Okay,
that was my graduation gift to myself.
Nice.
From Bible college. And
very cool.
So I went, and I thought at that time, well, it'd be cool to live there for a year.
Yeah.
I didn't have any long-term plans other than I'm single, I don't owe anybody money.
Yeah.
Why not go for a year? And that led to me going to graduate school. And anyway, that Bible study led my thinking to change. And that's to say this: maybe I need to see how long this thing can last.
Yeah.
The government of Israel determined that length, but it really shifted my thinking. I never entertained the idea that I may go live somewhere long term, vocationally, and I think that's I think it's a fun part of my life story is just the flexibility. We actually learned in the process of after I was in Odessa, then I went back to Israel for another 13-year stretch. So I was 16 years in Israel altogether. My wife was 11 years in Israel because we met on a blind date. She was on deputation to go to Czech Republic.
Okay, yeah.
So we met on a blind date in Odessa. So I say the best things in my life I've found in Odessa.
In Odessa,
so
there you go. That's good.
I got the gospel from Odessa. I got church ministry experience in Odessa.
That's
and
good.
I found a wife in Odessa.
Yeah.
I was ordained there, and our son was born there also
Cool.
in 20. What year was it? 2010, 2011. He's 10 now.
Somewhere
2011.
Yeah, 2011. All right,
yeah, that's
awesome.
it. Yeah,
there you go.
So anyway, so all of that led, and we went back to Israel. She was in Czech Republic, and finally convinced her to come to the Middle East. And so we were involved in a variety of things there. We were involved in church planting. This church is a full-fledged church now. It's completely Israeli leadership. It's in the center of the city. It's a significant place. It's known in Israel as the evangelistic church. We used to do some interesting things, kind of some sniper evangelism and just signs in the middle of the night, put them out and those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And we didn't ever advertise it was us. We create websites that people could come to get information, but never we weren't advertising us per se. We were advertising Jesus, right? Yeah. So that means high-rise buildings with the banners coming down the side, or we're a very, very creative team. We'd put advertising on city buses, places you think it would never, ever, ever happen. I once blogged. I just did a graphic of a city bus, and it's normal to advertise on city buses, but not us, not believers.
Right.
And I just did a mock-up blog post, a mock-up graphic of, I just pray one day this could be, and I put our logo, our ad on there. And it was with 2 years, the bus company agreed to let us have bus ads. Now, they sometimes never got out of the bus lots.
Yeah.
That's to say, the bus driver wouldn't. He would tear them off of the bus before they got out.
Yeah.
But I got some great pictures of the buses just driving through certain parts of town.
Wow, that's cool.
Hey, there's our ad. So Odessa led me to Israel and went back, and Colleen came over, and we were involved in church planting. We were involved in leadership development. We did a lot of creative stuff, open air evangelism, beach stuff, and I also helped develop, or was a leader in developing a national baseball training program. And those who watched the Olympics saw that our baseball team was in the Olympics. Now, I've been away from it for 10 years, so they got better once I got out of the picture.
Nice.
But we got the groundwork for that laid, and it's become a significant thing. And the fun thing about the baseball, it gave us You know, in Israel, the first question you get is, are you Jewish? And the answer is no. So then the follow-up question, it's just like a DNA thing for Israelis. Yeah. So why are you here?
Yeah.
So that I coached the national baseball team for all these years, was very, very helpful. God gave us courage never to hide our identity as Christians, that we teach the New Testament or pastor a church, that kind of thing. But the baseball thing did take some edge off. And honestly, this is a lesson for people who are thinking about missionary service or cross-cultural work in a modern world. There are a lot more countries today than there were 10 years ago or 20 years ago who say, you know what, we're not anti-Christian necessarily, but we've done that. What do you bring to the table?
Yeah,
so it's one of the things I think is helpful with the BBFI is looking at maybe non-traditional entries into countries, because here's the deal. You're a Christian 24/7. You're a plumber for 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, long day, 14-hour days. I get that, but you're a Christian 24/7.
Yeah.
So these other skill sets can oftentimes give us entry into countries or platforms where we get to be a Christian 24/7. Right?
I love that, and that's a lot of that's the heart behind why we started the World Initiative Network.
Exactly.
To provide all of those avenues. So I appreciate that, and one of the things that you just said just really sticks out to me, because how many people find their identity in what they do? Right. I'm a plumber. I'm a whatever it is, but I love the perspective of that may be what you do, but who you are as a believer is 24/7.
Right.
I love that perspective. That's great.
Now, a number of denominational boards have caught on to that earlier. So they'll bring a guy who's got 20 years of accounting experience and put him in a region, and he'll become the accountant for that region. So all the missionaries' money is managed or accounted for by a professional accountant. There are others who've done that, but I think this is just such an important way, because there are so many countries that even they're not anti-Christian necessarily. It's but what do you bring to the table besides your religion?
Well, and not just what do you bring to the table, but these are just creative methods that even in churches, even in countries that are open to the gospel, you also have tons of opportunities.
Absolutely.
Right? I think of Esteban Alvarez down in Uruguay, right?
Yeah, the football.
Yeah, American football in Uruguay. I mean, who would have thought? And they could use coaches and help doing that, And so I love that window, and I love that that's resonated with you based on your history and what you've done with baseball and things like that. That's really cool.
Yeah. So we've got lifetime friends.
Yeah, that's great.
Even
I love it.
Who didn't become believers, who recognize you're Baptists, we're Jews, but we have this common thing, and lifetime friends would really, to borrow a phrase, would go to bat for us. Even they didn't believe the gospel. So there are a lot of avenues in life where we can make connections with people who don't believe and have opportunity to share the gospel. That's I can't make anybody believe. God asks me, God commands me. Tell.
Be faithful.
Tell what you know.
Absolutely.
Tell what you know. Cast the seed, and it's the same principle. The Bible uses the same illustration.
Yeah.
You cast seed, but God makes it.
God
the best farmer in the world may not grow a crop.
That's right.
If God determines not to give him the crop, because we can't do that, right?
Yeah.
So we have obligations. That is to share the gospel.
Yeah.
How will they believe if they don't hear? And how will they hear unless someone proclaims to them?
Unless someone takes the gospel to them.
So that's our obligation, and using all of these vehicles to meet people, to engage with people. And this is a phrase I've coined. You can't have a conversation about Jesus unless you have a conversation.
Yeah.
And so
I love that.
All of these ways that we can begin to engage with people with conversations. You can't have a conversation about Jesus until you have a conversation.
I love that. There's this whole line of things, and I've worked as an evangelism pastor at churches, and one of the things I've heard over and over and over again, and I understand it and I get it, is, tell people about Jesus. If necessary, use words.
Yeah.
And I hear that, I get it, and I understand our lifestyle and the decisions you make, how we treat people is a testimony to people. But at some point, words have to come into play. And so I love that. And what I love about all of this is this gives people that are watching today kind of background on you, because you bring all this perspective to the class, to the classroom at BBC. And that I love the perspective that you've given us today, because it talks about your past history with BBFI churches, there at Temple in Odessa, and talks about your experience on the mission field in creative ways. And,
Sure.
And so I love that. So let's transition now for just a minute, and let's talk about the importance of training at Bible college for missionaries, right? So obviously you're the professor of missions at BBC. Just talk just a little bit about some of those classes and the importance of being trained,
right,
on your way to the mission field and what that looks like.
Yeah, I'm not one who would say a person absolutely could not be trained for cross-cultural work at a local church. In fact,
Sure.
I maybe to put that in another way, I would be a person to say, apart from a local church, you can't not be trained for it.
Okay.
That's an important component of
Yeah,
it.
sure.
And yesterday, I begged my students, figure out a way you can start a Sunday school class.
Yeah.
Ask God to give you a burden for a third grade girls class, fourth grade boys class, whatever it may be. Go to your pastor and say, I don't need anything. I don't need anything but a corner and your blessing.
Yeah.
This apartment complex God's put on my heart, I'm going to knock the doors. I'll bring kids out of there. I will pick them up. I'll bring them. I'll bring the cookies. I only need a corner to meet in and your blessing.
Yeah.
And find a place, find a church where that pastor will say, yes.
Yeah.
Because it's so critical. You can't become, I believe, you cannot become an effective cross-cultural worker, minister, apart from the local church. Now, what becomes more challenging is the nature of our culture. You ask about the importance of coming to a Bible college, to a ministry training center. We have a full-orbed package here. That means we have the faculty to deal with your theological training.
Yeah.
We have the faculty to deal with your general education training. Listen, let's be honest. There's a certain segment of Christian population says, I don't need to know any of that stuff. I don't need to know about history. I don't need to know about no language. I don't need to know about anything. I just need to know the Bible. Well, listen, a well-rounded education makes you a more engaging person. Yeah. You with a well-rounded education, you can engage with a lot more people because you have a lot more to draw from. Yeah. Right? So we have a very well-rounded education. We offer it, but specifically to the missions courses, I think one of the beautiful things about our location is we're right across the street from you guys.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
Not only do we have the classroom, and I'll get to a minute what we emphasize through our classroom, but we also can walk 50 feet across the street and go, hey, here is a whole thing that is fully self-contained here. Yeah. You want to meet missionaries, you'll do it in our classroom, but you'll also have access to them here. You want to look at how a missions program is administrated, walk across the street. Yeah. You want to just think through what were the implications, what would it look like, walk across the street. Yeah. Literally walk across a 2-lane street.
Yeah. And I love that because we have a lot of students that come over here. I have students in my office all the time that we talk to and have for the past several years, and I appreciate the emphasis that you put on that because it's a natural partnership outside of our obviously Baptist Bible Fellowship, but just we're locationally speaking. Yeah, we right here.
Walk across the street. Yeah. You want to see the mechanics, how they make the sausage, as you say. Yeah. Walk across the street. You guys got an open door policy here. Yep. Our students should feel, they may not yet, but they certainly should feel completely welcome to come over. Absolutely. And just from the top to I don't know who would be the low employee here, it doesn't matter. Yeah. I literally should feel completely welcome to come in and ask those questions. Sure. Connect with missionaries who are coming through. It's one of the things that's helpful for me as I'm looking for visitors for class, for live examples, guinea pigs that come stand in my class. Sure. Is when one of the BBFI missionaries is on furlough or deputation, at some point they're certainly coming through here, it's a natural route. There are places where it's a little bit more challenging to find those, right? So it's only a matter of scheduling. Does your schedule match with my schedule? Yeah, thankfully, I can be fairly flexible. But for example, that we've got a course deputation workshop. So and you've sent me the list of all the deputation missionaries for BBFI. Yeah. So I send out an email and ask them, hey, on your schedule in between these months, when you're in town, come to my class. Here's what I'd like you to present to the class. We've already had our first one. In fact, Craig, this is it blows me away that I even did it. I let a guest missionary speak in my class before I did.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because it fit his schedule. So
because he was here.
And the deputation workshop class, for example, it's a seminar style class.
Yeah,
so
sure.
we're not so focused on exams and that kind of thing. We're walking through the process of deputation.
Yeah.
So I can move things around quite easily and you'll be there in a couple of weeks. You'll come do a couple sets for us. But I'll have 6. Still working on one other if we can get the scheduling right.
Yeah, sure.
I'll have 6 plus you come through that deputation workshop, and these are. I don't have veteran missionaries come to that. I will have one pastor come in.
Yeah.
He's coming in October. I have missionaries who are in the middle of that grind right now, doing the road work. Not the veteran who did it 20, 30 years ago. That's me. I did it 20 years ago, right? And I think I have a lot to say about it,
sure.
But we're in a very dynamic world, so things are changing. We didn't have cell phones. I had bag phone when I was trying to do it,
sure.
and couldn't afford to turn the thing on, right? Now everybody's got a cell phone, so that changed dynamics. Email was just coming around when I was hitting the road, so that's a whole part of what we do. Websites, who'd ever heard of making your own website? Sure. All that was not yet, so... So it's important to me. I love to hear the veterans. I have them in other classes, but the newbies, I want them in there saying, hey, this is what's helpful. Well, this is where I stubbed my toe. Hey, watch out for doing this because I made a big mistake there and turned somebody off because I just didn't think about it or nobody had told me,
Yeah, sure.
Whether it's dress codes or all those kinds of things that come in. How do you prepare for? How do you contact? Hey, what's helping you get to pastors? Or better yet, what's helping pastors get back to you? That's
sure. That's a
it's
critical
got to be
piece.
A complete circle,
yeah, absolutely.
Right? So it's not just reaching out, but it's getting the reach back.
Yeah.
So that class is one of I'm really excited about that one because that's the one you can really just walk out of the class today and I've got something I can put to work right now. Yeah. I don't have to think and theorize about this, what it'll be. But we do a lot of things where our program is structured so that to be engaging. And I don't mean in the classroom that you're engaged and there's an exciting teacher standing in front of you. I hope that that's what is happening, but and I think it's happening. But what I mean engaging is that this is another phrase I've coined. You look in the mirror this morning, and now go find somebody that doesn't look like you. Yeah. Because I want them already now to be engaging cross-culturally. Yeah. One of the worries I had when we moved up here, we moved up from Dallas-Fort Worth area where I was teaching previously. Is in Dallas-Fort Worth, every flavor of person in the world is there. Yeah, sure. It's Baskin-Robbins times whatever. Yeah. It just as an example. Yeah, sure. Our church in Arlington, we had a family who did ministry outreach to deaf Nepalese immigrants in Fort Worth. Oh, wow. There is an apartment complex in Fort Worth where a deaf Nepali community lives. Wow. That's how specific you can get in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Whatever flavor person you want to find, you can find them there. Indian Hindus over in this area, Bangladeshis over in this area. It is amazing. And so when we moved up to Springfield, it was one of the things that worried me. Yeah. Worried me. It's like, I'm going to lose this cosmopolitan flavor. Yeah. We got here, and to my surprise, by God's grace, there is a cosmopolitan community here that really shocked me. Yeah. When I went on the internet and looked how many Jews are in Greater Springfield, well, it came back 100 people. Yeah. Most of them don't even really identify as Jews, and there's a Reform synagogue in Rogersville. So it's like, this world that I'm so connected to is not here. And that emphasized for me, it's like, my worry, there's not going to be. But I got here, and my heavens. Thankfully, MSU is here. Yeah. And they have a tremendous foreign student program. They do. Our family's even adopted a few students there for a year, and so we've got our students engaging with adopting students, foreign students at MSU. And again, the variety is fairly broad. Yeah. We had a case where one of our students, and it's a requirement in our cross-cultural communication relationship that you you find and partner with someone. Now, I give them some ideas of how they can do it.
Yeah,
And the student group at MSU is a great option. It's not our only option, but as an example of how that works, on one case we had a student that her grandmother was Vietnamese.
Yeah.
And in God's providence, that was a Vietnamese student was offered to her, and she suddenly had a familial connection, and it made it a softer, entry for that foreign student who's wondering, oh, I wonder what it's going to be like, and suddenly they had something in common. But we've had students adopt Chinese students, we've had students adopt a variety of flavors of students at MSU. There are tons of Saudi Arabians there. I've bumped into them myself. Yeah. We've had students adopt Saudi.
There's a lot of Romanians here.
A lot of Romanians here. There's a Burmese community here. In fact, we've had a few students at BBC who are Burmese. I have one this semester. Met his pastor just a few days ago, who's Burmese national, who's immigrated here. And so it's been a beautiful thing, too, that I was a little bit hesitant about, unknowingly.
Yeah, sure.
And got here and found out, hey, there's a great community here. So when I talk about our program is engaging, in the first year's a little bit more theory. And for example, our opening classes, it's got a big $2 title, Biblical Foundation of Global Outreach. Yeah. What that means is, what does the Bible say about reaching the lost, right? So we start and we spend a significant time there, and I think it's such a worldview issue today. You have two options: either God created us in a supernatural and special way, or the other alternative in our culture is chance times matter times time, and that's how we got here. Yeah. So we're working through that with our students to build this case. Yeah. Why do we evangelize, and what's the big deal about it? Is the creation narrative says that God, when he looked over all that he had created on days 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the first half of day 6, he said it's good. The Hebrew word tov, it's good. And then he creates man and puts him into that mix with everything else, and God then says, "Ooh, that's tov me'od. That is very good."
Very good.
And there's something different when man comes into it. And what is the difference is Genesis 1, 26 and 7. God created us in his image. We bear his image. Yeah. I tell the kids, all of us are broken images of God. It's you throw the rock at the mirror, and some of us have thrown that rock a lot of times, but every one of those still little slivers there reflects the image of God. Yeah. And God, and we're starting now, even I'm in the course right now, we're starting now to move beyond that special relationship that God created man for. Yeah. We've got to the fall. We broke that relationship, and now, starting in Genesis 3:15, we start to see, hey, God is starting to say, there is a process coming, which I'm going to redeem that which is special to me.
Well, I love the background, the foundation of that as you start there.
Just walking through the text, Old Testament to New Testament. The funny thing, our theme verse and memory verses for this, Psalm 96. Oh, sing to the Lord a new song, sing to the Lord all the earth. There's a global. But verse 2 says, sing to the Lord, bless his name, tell of his salvation from day to day. Yeah. Many people, if I didn't say that was from Psalms, you'd go, oh, that sounds like a New Testament thing. Tell of his salvation day to day, right? Yeah. So we're already starting to see in the Old Testament, hey, God has a heart to reach people, to redeem that which is lost, to give life to that which is dead. Yeah. So that's our foundational level. Yeah. But so the engagement part of that then begins to increase as we're moving up. So in our world religions class, which comes second year, you require, you as a student, theoretically you're my student, but I will require you to engage with someone who follows another religion. Yeah. So in town, we've got Sikhs, we've got Buddhists, we've got Hindus, we've got all kinds.
The full gambit of everybody.
We've even got, it's fun for me, I continue to work with my Hebrew at the mall because there's always 3 to a dozen Israelis working in the mall here and in Branson.
And I love hearing stories of you at the mall because you told me stories of your interactions with people at the mall. Yeah, and I love how you challenge people to be involved with that now. One of the things that we talk about on a regular basis is one day you graduate from college, the switch is not just automatically going to flip that now you're going to go share your faith and evangelize. Yep. That history and that pushing and that challenging from you in your classes, I think is an incredible
so
part of
it
this.
just pyramids up our final course. I don't have time to go through all the different courses, but our final course, the student will actually identify a people group. It's their choice. Maybe God's laid that on their heart. That's their calling, or they just say, I don't know, but that one's interesting.
Yeah.
And they will develop an evangelistic plan to reach that people group based on their everything we've done. Our anthropology class in the first year leads up to this. Our world religions class leads up to this.
Everything leads up to that.
Cross-cultural communication relationship leads up to this, so that at the end they build this plan that they have based on, I know the history of this country, and I know the history of this people in this area of this country. I know their language influences. I know about their finances. I know the history of who's come in, who's not. Also in that project, they'll talk about previous efforts to reach this people group, and it ultimately comes out to about a 100-page plan how I'm going to try to reach this people group, right? So we have this engaging, interactive thing where you can't get through the program without going in town and looking in the mirror in the morning. Go find somebody that doesn't look like you.
And engaging them.
Who's got a different culture.
That's good.
Different background. Make friends with them. In the early part, it's not even evangelistic. The kids are very, very scared. Kids are college adults. I always tell them we're all adults in the room, right? But it's intimidating, right? I've never talked to somebody that doesn't believe what I believe about that. So it's very nerve-wracking. So in our entry level, I tell them, if it comes to the gospel, that's wonderful, because ultimately we want that.
That's
but
the goal.
The purpose of this assignment, befriend somebody. Ask them, interview them in world religions, for example. Interview them, you will ask them certain questions about their faith. And if it leads to, and it might naturally lead to, what do Hindus believe about sin, for example? Well, the natural counterpart on our side is, well, this is what the New Testament teaches about sin. So it's a natural way to begin gospel conversations, but I'm not even asking you to do that at this level. We're working. We're learning to walk before we run. So then that will culminate in this thing where they have engaged others who don't look like them or are of other cultures, and now they know how to do a plan. Will that plan work? I don't know. Nobody knows. But if it doesn't, they know the process and can back up, take a few weeks, and say, oh, I'm missing this element. Oh, now I know. Now I can put a plan based on more information. Does that make sense?
No, I love that, because you start with that foundational piece like you talk about, and you work your way up to what does it look like to engage this people group, even in an international type setting, and I love that. Hey, look, if you're just joining us, we have Craig Dunning here, professor at BBC, in their missions department. We're excited to have him really talking about the missions program at BBC, and then also some about the partnership between the mission office and BBC. So I'm going to come back to you for just a minute. And we don't have a lot of time left, for just a couple minutes here. So talk to me about, we talked about the proximity of the mission office to BBC, right? Talk to us just a minute about the importance of that relationship for you. And we do things like the World Mission Forum. We had the opportunity to come alongside and help with some renovations and stuff in the missions room. So just talk to our viewers that may not know a little bit about some of those connections, and just kind of give a little bit of feedback on some of those connections and what that means to you in the program.
I mean, there's a personal emotional tie, because I believe, I don't just feel it. I do feel it, but I believe it to be true that you guys fully support our program, what we're trying to do, and that comes in a variety of ways. Listen, in my classes, I tell the students up front, look, I don't know if God's called you, but I'm trying to call you. I want you to surrender to go to the hard places. Really give your life to something bigger. Think of something bigger than yourself and give your life to it. So sometimes there's a question: are you preaching today or are you teaching today? What is it? I said, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm trying to compel you with every bit of my energy, every thought I have, to draw your heart towards giving your life for the gospel's sake, for those who have never heard, right? And so you guys support that in a variety of ways. You alluded to them, and I'll just flesh them out a little bit. For example, the World Mission Forum. That puts, I'm the primary voice at students here. I do bring in a lot of BBFI types who come in and talk about their experience, their history. For example, I've had the Lyons brothers at different years come in and tell about the pioneer era, which is their parents, right?
Yeah.
And I've had others come from the pioneer era. I had John Connerup come in and talk about his parents, who were the pioneer era in Ethiopia, right?
Yeah,
so
that's right.
I don't want our students to ever lose what our foundations and roots were, our pioneers.
Yeah.
So when I can get those voices come through, I do that. And those who are doing things that are big and small, come in our class, let our students know what you're doing. So the relationship offers that kind of stuff. But the World Mission Forum is a specific time that we dedicate for the school. We really shut down everything for this, and you guys facilitate that, whether we've done it also across the street, we've also done it here. I love having it here because it gives the kids an opportunity to see the place.
Yeah.
They get persuaded with their eyes, right?
Yeah.
You get to go in the museum and stand in here and get the energy that's going in a place that's dedicated to this one thing.
Yeah.
This place is dedicated to one thing.
Yeah.
We got a lot of different things going on over there, right? But here it's dedicated to a single thing.
Yeah.
And here we're all gathered here, and we've got pastors who are preaching to us, teaching us through. We've got guest missionaries who are here.
Yeah.
You guys do that, and it's a top shelf deal, right? You even put snacks in the back, and what student doesn't like a few free
that's
snacks,
right? Absolutely.
The drawings, all that kind of thing, and builds an energy and an interest. Because here's the thing: so many Christians have never even thought about, could I do that?
Yeah.
So getting students into those spaces where they can sort of think, hey, well, what about me?
Yeah.
What about me? I stumbled into it. I was going to Israel for three semesters. I'd saved my money for exactly that. That's what I needed to complete my program.
Yeah.
And then I was coming back. 3 years turned into 3 semesters turned into 3 years, turned into 16 years.
Yeah.
Really, half my adult life at this point.
Yeah.
I didn't plan it that way. It happened because I was there. So I want to get students into places. So that's one of the ways you guys support us, is that World Mission Forum. But another way, and significant to me, you guys sponsored the renovation of our classroom. I got the best classroom on campus. Yeah. It's not just the best; it's the coolest. It's the most technologically savvy. It's the real-time, in our culture classroom.
Yeah.
When a student walks into our classroom, whether they're in the intercultural studies program or they're in the business program, or they will walk into our classroom and say, hey, this is my generation here.
Yeah.
With the graphics on the wall, with our monitors, with our ability to teleport in.
We
teleport in missionaries from wherever they are in the world. If they have internet connection, we can teleport them in by video.
That's right.
We have all of that.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, the classroom you guys sponsored competes with any classroom they have at Missouri State University.
Wow, very cool.
That the government is putting tons of money into, right? I've been in tons of classrooms over there, and I was thinking, my heavens, my classroom puts this thing in the shadows, right? And that's because the BBFI believes in what we're doing.
Yeah.
And so it's one thing to say you believe it. It's another thing to start putting a hand across the street. Let's shake hands. Let's partner. And this was a significant investment and strategic investment, and you are a lot of the brains behind that, because you have a kind of a decorator's mind and a creative mind. I'm not. I'm kind of the box guy, but give me a plan, I can figure out how to make it happen. But you came in and looked at the room and said, here's some ideas what we could do. We revolutionized that room. And then I had a couple of students that bought in and really did a lot of the legwork.
A lot of the legwork of painting and things like that.
Peeling the paint, putting the new paint, and just cleaning up everything. And we have, thanks to the BBFI Mission Office, we have the very best classroom.
Well, we're excited
on
to
the
be
campus.
We're excited to be able to come alongside and help and be involved in those processes. And we appreciate you, what you bring to the table. It's great to hear some of your connections to BBFI history.
Yeah.
And just kind of see your story, hear kind of all of your background and how that relates to what you teach, and then to give us the overview today. I appreciate the time to go through and tell us about some of the specific classes and how that program builds. I just think that's great context for people to have in relationship to the program. And so, look, if you're watching today and you're looking for a place to come and study missions, I want to encourage you to consider BBC. You can visit their website, gobbc.edu. And you can request information, and you can get registered and things on there. And I want to encourage you to reach out to Professor Dunning as well, and with questions that you may have. Look, we're excited to have you. One last shot here before we sign off today. Any last things that you would just say, hey, to the person that's out here watching today about the missions program at BBC?
Well, I hope that we've been able to summarize. I could say a whole lot more. You probably got that idea. We could say a lot more, but that may give you a flavor to whet your appetite to come see, because we are a genuine, engaging. It's not just theory here. We're going to build a plan so that when you walk out of here, you are equipped to do. Now, you'll learn. Hopefully, all of us continue to learn. Right? I've got a PhD in this stuff, and I'm still learning. And I'm still talking. Hey, what about this? And learning this, and what are you guys doing there? So it's not that any program you get to the end of it and that's all. But we're going to, in partnership with the BBFI, you're going to be exposed to tons of people who are in the field doing it right now. You're going to stand on the shoulders, broad shoulders. That's what I say. I stand on very, very broad shoulders. Those professors before me, it's not by accident that the saying that missions is a strong right arm of Baptist Bible Fellowship. It's true, and that's because there are some strong, broad shoulders in those early days, and we continue to find them. I'm the weak link in this whole bunch, but just great partnerships, great assets that all come together in right here in proximity. That's in our city. That's at the mission office. That's at our campus. All of these things come together, I think. It's not the only place you could study, but we've got all the elements right here that you can be exposed to and experience and learn this process of engaging with people of different cultures and have something to say to them.
Well, hey, Craig, I just want to say thank you for your time and all your insights today. It's been helpful for me. I mean, you and I talk, and I'm going to be in your classes. I do appreciate the invite to our directors and myself to be able to come over and speak in classes and be engaged in that process on that level as well. And just looking forward to seeing how God uses you in the program at BBC and the future of missions through the BBFI. And so I just want to say thank you for being here. Again, thanks for watching today. And I want to encourage you to click subscribe and like and share this video on all of your social media platforms. And we would appreciate that. Help us build this audience for the 938 podcast. And also want to encourage you to continue to be involved in the 938 challenge. You know, part of Project 938 this year is praying that God would call more laborers into the harvest. And if God calls more laborers in the harvest, that means more people are going to go to BBC to study missions, and more people are going to come from BBC studying missions to go out as BBFI missionaries. And that's the process. We want to encourage you to do that. You say, well, how can I get involved? Well, you pray, right? Pray to the Lord of the harvest. He'd send forth laborers into the harvest. The 938 challenge is simply this. At 9:38 in the morning, 9:38 at night, set your alarm. And when that alarm goes off, just simply pray and say, God, can please call more laborers into the harvest. And you do that, and looking forward to seeing how God uses Project 938 alongside, obviously, the BBFI Mission Office and BBC in the future of seeing people all around the world come to know Christ as their Savior because of the faithfulness of our network to pray for more laborers. So, hey, listen, thanks for being here, and we will see you next time right here on the 938 podcast.